Let's be honest, we all know what we should be doing. Whether we want to drop a few kilos, be more productive, or improve the quality of our sleep, knowing what to do isn't the hard part. The hard part is actually doing it and sticking with it. Do you want to know why? I'll tell you. My name is Shireen Skippers and I'm host and founder of For Your Life. For Your Life is a podcast all about habits. Join me as I talk to experts from all walks of life as we discover the power of habit and how you could use it to change your life. So if you want to change your life, change your habits. Habits are about time, and your time starts now. Hey Liam, it's great to have you in the chair for this recording. I've been wanting to do this for a while, so thanks for making the time today.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Where do we start? There's so much I want to delve into, and I'm really glad that we spent the time together kind of prepping, because I just know we were going to go so off track if we hadn't done a little bit of planning around today's session. But I suppose the best place to begin is in the beginning.
Yep.
So why don't we talk a little bit about your childhood and how you've landed up moving from the UK to Australia?
Yeah, for sure. So, I grew up in the northwest of England. So my city's called Preston. It's near Manchester. Very close there. And I suppose growing up, and the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, I've always had this kind of desire to help people. So I grew up in kind of like a low socioeconomic area. And as I transitioned towards like my teenage years, I just kind of found that I had this desire just to help people, whether that be through school. I was head boy at school.
Of course you were.
I got into like some youth work, helping young people and stuff like that as I got to 16. And then very long story short, moved to Australia in 2017, where my wife and I picked up fitness. That was our main kind of vehicle that we used to help people. And then from there transitioned into becoming a psychotherapist and helping people with various different presentations. Yeah, that's it in a very quick.
That's a good summry. That's really good. So if we talk a little bit about your work with youth or young boys primarily.
Yeah.
What kind of led you down that path?
Yeah, I think so. At 14, I stepped into a church and I became a Christian at 14, and at that time, the thing that was so kind of appealing to me as a 14-year-old was the sense of acceptance. In that space, I could be who I was, and I was allowed to kind of be truly me and authentic. And so I think from there, having that place of acceptance and being able to be authentic, I just really wanted to help people. And so what that looked like was, as I was about 16, 17 to about 20 years old, basically just helping like young lads from 10 to like 13 years old, just with things at school, transitioning, things at home for certain people. There was some people that I like would volunteer and help that had like learning difficulties. And so like just getting around them and supporting them and knowing that, hey, they don't need to be isolated, or they don't need to be kind of seen as like broken or a problem, but like just have someone who's a little bit further down the track, get alongside them and just help them in some of the things that they were going through.
What was the sort of common themes that you see regularly?
I think especially in Christian circles, maybe like identity. Like, what does it look like to be a young boy, man, like transitioning into teenage years? What does that look like for school? Like, how do I be myself and not kind of like hide this huge part of my life, which was that they were Christian, and the anxiety that comes around that, kind of like, oh, I love this part of my life, but maybe when I go to school, I'm going to hide it because like I want to be accepted and I want to be, and so we're just often talking about that, like talking about how can we encourage these people to be, happy with who they are and confident in who they are.
Yeah, we talk, you and I spoke a lot about the importance of that sort of self-identity and where do you get it from? So perhaps, these young boys weren't getting it from their parents or people around them. So then they were looking to people like yourselves to help them sort of find that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
No, very, very, I love talking about that. So we'll touch on that again further down the track. So then you found yourself coming to Australia.
Yeah.
out of all places.
Yeah.
Can't knock you for that, because I also found myself here. And initially I was just going to come for a couple of years, but then have never left. So I understand the appeal. Yeah. And then you got into fitness, CrossFit.
That's right.
And you dedicated a big portion of your time to helping get Holly to CrossFit Games.
CrossFit Games, yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So, just before we moved here in late 2016, I kind of had this vision for Holly and this idea that, hey, I think she could make it to the CrossFit Games. And so kind of for perspective, that would be the way to get to the CrossFit Games is the CrossFit Open, as kind of you're aware, and then there's various stages, but it's approximately 0.05% of participants that enter would make it to the CrossFit Games. And I just kind of had this vision. I was like, hey, I think we could do this. And at the time, we were house sitting for somebody, and they had like a chalkboard wall in their room. Don't ask me why. I don't know why, but this big chalkboard wall, and I wrote on it, future CrossFit Games athlete. It was over the top of the bed, and I did an arrow towards Holly. And then from that moment, we just set up on this journey of like, what would it look like to have such a big dream and vision and just dedicate our lives to that. And that led us moving to Australia, kind of like leaving our jobs and really centering our lives around like, who do we want to become, and what, instead of just falling into a job, kids and stuff like that. It just wasn't where we were at the time.
And that was a couple of years of you working towards that. And what did you kind of get out of that as yourself individually and as a couple, and what were your sort of really key? How did that change you, I guess?
Yeah, good question. So when we got here in 2017, the first thing we were kind of looking for was like the right environment. I think I acknowledged that environment was going to be key, especially for such a big goal and journey. And so we sat around looking for gyms and people that were further along the line than we were. So that was kind of the first thing we did. And then it was just reinforcing the identity, like over and over and over again. Like Holly probably believed less in the vision than I did. I was like, nah, this is going to happen. Like we always had a saying, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, but a matter of when. And so that took the pressure off, and we were just like, okay, let's keep making calculated decisions that always move us towards that goal. And it was great. 2021 was the first time she qualified for the CrossFit Games, and she did it again in 2023. And it was an awesome journey.
Wow. And to see her in the gym, because for those of you listening, watching, I go to Liam and Holly's gym, and she is just unbelievably strong. It is crazy the weights that she lifts. It's incredible.
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
So good to see. Amazing.
It's good, and it's taken time, I think, like to build in her confidence and stuff. So Holly was an ex-gymnast. So growing up, she was a gymnast, and she's very confident in her physical abilities. She, like, when you see her compete on the floor, whether it's in gymnastics or in CrossFit, this kind of like new side of her comes out, and I love it. It's so cool to see. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I guess everyone needs that person in their life that believes in them more than they believe in themselves to push them forward, or to help them in those areas that they're struggling, so that they can get where they need to be. So it's wonderful. And would you say that sort of led you down the path of working with high performance athletes? Or
I was definitely extremely interested in the intersection between like human performance and psychology. Like, we can have physical capabilities, but limiting beliefs and things like that, I think, have a significant impact. And so during that time, I became really curious about that. I was reading books. There's a couple of books that stand out. There was one called The Road Less Traveled, and there was one called How Champions Think. And they really influenced my kind of like desire to find that intersection of like, okay, we've got an athlete here that's physically capable, but maybe there's some psychological limitations, and where does that intersection lie, and what needs to happen for those two things to come together?
How do you, identify those and sort of raise them to a level of awareness? Because I think that would be probably challenge number one, is to what are those blocks and what?
Yeah, for sure. Like what's there? Yeah, so I suppose like looking at, the trans-theoretical model, we use it in fitness, but also psychology. It's kind of looking at, is a person pre-contemplative? Are they contemplative? Like, do they know that some change needs to happen or not? And I think it comes with time and exposure, especially in the journey of CrossFit with Holly. It just come through time, just me being curious, extremely like, how are you thinking right now? What are you thinking about? Like, why are you thinking the way that you're thinking? Instead of me being like, hey, I'm noticing this, you should change this, this, and this, or why is your mindset like this? It was more about being curious and then raising that consciousness within herself. Like, oh yeah, I was anxious before this event, or I was, I had this limiting belief. And then from that place of consciousness raising, we can then start to implement some changes or be curious more about it and some strategies around it.
Yeah. It's a sort of iterative process.
Yeah.
Back and forward, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's in therapy too, that's the heart of change. I don't think that as a therapist, it's our job to be like, okay, you just need to do X, Y, and Z and it's going to be fixed. Like, I don't think that that's good therapy. I think it's collaborating together and for the client to understand, why do I want to make this change? Like, why is it important to me? I think without that piece, maybe it's not sustainable. Change
it's not going to land,
yeah.
So let's talk then more a little bit about your practice and your decision to sort of do your full training as a psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Firstly, can you tell us what psychotherapy is?
Yeah, for sure. So I like to say psychotherapy is like someone who is extremely intrigued and works with human behavior. Why does a human behave the way in which they do? Under what circumstances and environmental conditions has it led to that experience for that person? So I'm not necessarily too caught up in diagnosis. I don't work with diagnosis too much. I more work with like existential, like, why do you present to me the way that you do, and what conditions have led to that? So I say that's kind of how a psychotherapist is different to a psychologist, for example. Yeah.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
And you have a practice and you work with primarily like anxiety, trauma, depression, those kinds of things.
Yeah, correct.
What is your unique approach, or what do you, how do you, you spoke about connection and the importance of that in your work.
Yeah. So for me, I think all change happens in connection with other human beings. I think it's extremely important, especially in the society that we live in now with social media, AI, and things like that. But I'm a true believer of like humanistic models of therapy. And so that would be that, a client would be able to know that their world is fully understood, or to a certain extent, by the therapist, and there's a connection in that. Sometimes behavioral therapies are great for giving tools and strategies to help certain presentations. But I always like to tell myself that you haven't seen this story before. Maybe it's a presentation of anxiety, but the experience that this person is having that's sat opposite you is significantly different to the experience that the previous client or the next client has had. And so I believe that if I'm able to display that empathy and for that client to understand that I understand their worldview, and without losing myself, I can still understand your worldview, then from that place we can create some substantial change. Yeah,
so we spoke about how you create that sort of trust relationship so that the person, your client, your patient, opens up to you because it would take quite a while to build that trust. So how do you do that?
I think for some people it's different. Like there's different intensities and frequencies in which people kind of lean into that trust. But I think for me, safety. And I think it's important that all of my clients don't think that I'm trying to explain them away. So you might say, oh, I've got this. And I'm like, I understand. Like maybe because this, but I don't think it's about explaining away. It's about you receiving that I deeply understand your experience. And that comes through time, through safety. It comes through like reading body language as a therapist, noticing if a client has shut off slightly, maybe you've probed a little bit too much or we've gone somewhere too quick, being attuned to those like micro communications. And then over time, that client just slowly starts to allow their guard to come down, and then we can start to work. But it's different for every client, I think. Yeah.
Do most people come to you, or are they referred, or?
Most people come to me, yeah. So they've either come through like a website or a referral link or something like that. So for the most part, most people come to me, and that means that on the stage of change I was talking about earlier, there's a element of contemplation.
Yes.
They're kind of like ready to explore something, but they're not sure how the process is going to look. Yeah.
And what do you see most? Are you seeing sort of similar patterns or themes now that has been different to perhaps when you started out?
I think there's a whole range of presentations. Yeah, anxiety is a big one. I think identity, maybe I could summarize it with authenticity. Like, how does a person be authentic in the world, especially with the demands of success or hustle culture and social media and all of these things? Like, what does it look to be truly authentic? And sometimes I get quite a lot of clients coming and wrestling with that question around identity. Who am I? Or the pressure of life, like success or family and things like that, business. But yeah, I wouldn't say that there's any like one key theme. There's a whole range of things. That's why I love my job. It's great. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Do you mainly male clients that you see, or is it a mixture?
No, it's a mixture.
It's a mixture. Okay.
Yeah, a mixture of male and female. Yeah.
And I've always had this question: is it possible to, I guess, cure someone from their anxiety, for example, or their depression? Does it? I mean, I'm not talking about people who are heavily need to go and be on medication, but people who sort of go in and out of those periods. What is the future look like? I guess does it go away? Do they just learn to better deal with it?
Sure. Yeah. So for me, I think generically most people think that anxiety is bad, but anxiety actually isn't bad. It's if we were driving a car, it's like maybe an engine light on the car. It's a signal that something maybe doesn't quite feel right, or it's not aligned with you. There's misalignment of values potentially, or I always like to say in some of the workshops that I do that the day I got married, I was stood at the altar and I felt anxious. And that wasn't because Holly wasn't going to turn up or anything like that, but it was just a significant moment in my life. But I think most people in society, they think that anxiety is bad and it's something that should be avoided. Like, how quickly can I get rid of this thing, whether it's through numbing through substances, or it's taking medication, or it's escapism, whatever that looks like. But I really like to work with clients to be like, what would it look like to be accepting of your anxiety? Maybe there's something that anxiety is telling you about circumstances in your life or trajectory of where you're going. And so with anxiety, what I like to do is, I like to look at, first and foremost, okay, if it's really present and it's really overwhelming, what are some kind of strategies and tools we can use to kind of ground you? I call them anchoring techniques, just to kind of like soften the experience slightly. But then from that place, maybe in conjunction with me as a therapist, let's step back into that anxiety and just notice what's happening for you. Where do we think it's coming from? Why do we think it's here? How do we think we can better manage it? And so to that notion, to come back to your question, I think that anxiety is something that will be present and ebbs and flows in people's lives. But my goal is to give tools and strategies to be able to handle that anxiety better and to know why it's present, instead of be like, anxious about your anxiety, and then you're like, I got to run away and hide or avoid. Yeah.
It kind of it does energize you in a way. Of course, it gets to a point where it's exhausting. But,
yeah, of course.
If you're having to perform, or it's good to have an element of it too.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So now you are about to embark on a new journey with your retreats that you're running, which look absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm very sad they're booked out already, because I was like, I could really benefit from that. So talk to me about how you've sort of come up with this idea and what the sort of notion is behind this Norwell Retreat.
Yeah, Norwell Retreats, that's right. So my vision for the Connection concept, which is my umbrella business, is psychological services for everybody. I think that there's a huge need, especially within Australia, where we are, the Medicare kind of system. There's two things. There's either a time constraint, 6 to 8 weeks in general, or there is financial constraint. So, some people simply can't afford therapy. And so the vision was that how could I create an ecosystem of services that people can tap into at different kind of maybe economic levels, from like free resources to maybe something that's a little bit more higher end. The higher end one is Norwell. And so it's a luxury retreat. And the goal is that people that will attend the retreat, potentially, maybe they're business owners, they're high functioning people, they're, deep into their careers. And I'm not sure if you can relate, but at times when we're in those fears, we very rarely take moments to focus on ourselves. It's always like, what's the next thing? Or like, how do I keep growing the business? Or how do I keep moving forward in my career? And so the dream and the vision behind the retreat is 3 days for those people to come back to themselves, reconnect, to maybe look at some of the like areas in their life that they've been avoiding, and how an awareness and tools and strategies around that could actually add vitality to their life. Instead of worrying and being anxious about these, circumstances that they're avoiding in their life, it can actually add something. And so that's the goal. Yeah. And it's laced in luxury. I'm pretty excited. It's going to be
That's
good.
Wonderful. So you have a few people that are going to help you facilitating? Or is it just
So
you?
it's myself, and I've got another facilitator, a guy that I studied with. He's also from the north of England. So Nord is like north, and then
right.
wellness. Yeah. And so, there's the two of us, and we have yoga as well on the Sunday. So we've got a yoga instructor. It's going to be great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It was interesting to me that a lot of very successful people don't know when to stop, how to stop, and also when they achieve the goals that they've wanted to achieve, they just feel really flat.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this also with high performance athletes that when their sport finishes, it was their identity. So now what do they do? And
who are they?
Yeah. So I'm interested to know kind of your experience with that and how you would support someone going through that.
Yeah, for sure. I like to redefine success. I think we often think about success as an outcome goal. What is it that we can achieve? Is it high performance in sport? Is it a certain amount of money in the bank? Whatever that might be. And often what we find is when people achieve that goal, they then quickly like, what's the next one? What's the next goal? And so to that notion, that kind of wheel, like hamster wheel never stops. It's like, what's the next thing? And I see that a lot in athletes. But what I think success is defined by is someone that is values driven, and someone that's able to hold and be authentic to their values, regardless of the vessel in which they put their energy towards. And so to that notion, it means that the athlete that's come to the end of their sporting career, who valued maybe hard work, courage, effort, they can apply themselves now in a different area. Maybe it's starting a business, or maybe it's starting a family, or whatever that looks like. And they can still feel a sense of fulfillment and vitality. But when we wrap our identity around one thing, which could be sport or business, it can often leave us feeling empty, because we're kind of like, well, who are we without that thing? But the way I like to look at it, if we're values driven, then we know who we are. There's a sense of security in ourselves. We know the type of person that we want to be in the world, and then we get to choose where we place our energy.
That's great. I love that. It goes to that sort of bigger picture concept, and it's as you said, the skills can be transcended into other areas, and you can still get the same level of fulfillment doing the same thing but in a different way.
Yeah, for sure.
Love it. So given that we are here to talk about habits as well, so many areas that I'm thinking habits apply, both from fitness and sport, achieving goals. I mean, even you sort of persevering through your career and getting to to where you are today. It's always interesting to me the things that people do habitually that are either take them down a path towards achieving their goals or are sabotaging them, and they just can't get out of those loops. So do you come across, or have you had experience in helping people with sort of changing their habits?
Yes, for sure. The way in which I kind of like frame habits to people is, I think if we've got this, we might have a vision for our lives, right? We might maybe a business vision, or we want to achieve a goal, be a certain athlete or something like that. I say that we have hooked behaviors and unhooked behaviors. A hooked behavior is something that is default, that moves us away from the person that we want to be. And often these can be habits that don't serve us very well. And an unhooked behavior is something that we've consciously chosen to do. We've unhooked from these default patterns, and it moves us towards the person that we want to become. And so habits fall into both ends, because you can have an unhooked habit, which is very helpful, and it moves you towards the identity that you're trying to create for yourself. or you can have a hooked one which moves you away. And so that's kind of how I frame habits when working with people. Yeah, and the goal would be let's start to unhook and choose our habits and be conscious about our habits. Yeah.
And that's absolutely what I'm all about is making them conscious, because very often we've been doing things for such a long time that we don't realize that we're doing them, and we don't realize the triggers. You spoke a little bit about environment and how important that is.
Yes.
Very hard to change a habit when you are in the same environment and around the same triggers all the time. So I'm really interested in looking at that aspect, because I realize more and more that I read about this and look and analyze my own behavior, that we're not rational people. We don't, even though we know something is good for us or bad for us, it doesn't change our behavior. We tend to fall into those same patterns when we're around certain people or in certain situations.
For sure.
So if you're not conscious or aware of them, you can't ever change them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
We were talking when we met about Holly and her training and having to, I guess, be in that habit of constantly training and practicing for CrossFit Games, getting ready for CrossFit Games. And you were saying that when you have that sort of bigger picture, it's not as tedious, because you know what you're striving for, and you can get up and keep going, because you've got that bigger picture and that person who believes in you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And and I think a big one is like the formation of that identity. Like habits flow from that. Like if you wake up in the morning and you present yourself as an athlete, for example, and you hold that kind of identity for that specific area of your life, then those habits become somewhat subconscious, or they become easily accessible. Like self-discipline and strong will get you so far, but then when it's like, oh well, this is who I am now, this is the way I present myself in this area of my life, then it's a lot less on like discipline and stuff, and it's a bit more like we do that because that's who we are. Yeah,
that's exactly right. I kind of first became conscious of this when I would find people saying, because I train every day, and people would say to me, how do you do that? You have such willpower. And I'm like, I have terrible will. I have no willpower at all. But I'm in the habit of doing it, and I just do it because it is my identity. And therefore I also eat well. I get a good night's sleep, because it's part of who I am. And it's very hard to explain that to someone else. How do you do that? And that's really what, For Your Life is all about. It's understanding that once you start with your identity and your values, as you were saying, everything flows from that, and it stops becoming such an arduous task to force yourself to do these things, because it just becomes part of who you are.
Natural. And like I think about when, for example, if you used to go on holiday, would you still exercise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so the environment has changed, but yet the habit remains. And that's not because of like strong will and discipline. It's because it's part of who you are. It's in line with your values, and it's part of your identity. And how often do we see people, or we hear of people, maybe they've been training for something, they go on holiday, and then they don't come back to the gym for like 4 weeks because that environment had changed, and maybe that wasn't it wasn't an ingrained habit. It was being perpetuated by the environment.
That's right. It wasn't part of the value
and
who
system.
They are. Very interesting. No, we can talk about this all day. It's really, I love it. But I've heard willpower described as, it's almost like you're holding a very heavy weight. So you can hold it for a certain period of time, but eventually you fatigue and you have to put it down. And that's when the habits kick in, and that's what keeps you going. So motivation, willpower gets you started, but the habits are the things that will keep you going.
That's right. It kickstarts you. Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
So let's talk about you and your habits. Do you have, what are your ones that you're most proud of, or ones that you think are like keystone habit, the one thing you do that impacts other areas of your life?
Yeah, for sure. I think, what's a keystone habit of mine? I don't know whether it's a summary habit, but to be kind of like integral and consistent. So that can move into different areas. Maybe it's more of a core value, but what that looks like is, so if I'm going to be consistent, for example, in my faith, because I'm a Christian, that means that to be integral and consistent would be that there's certain practices that I would do daily, because that's part of who I am and it's part of my identity. Exercise would be another one. So I've transitioned from a place of like training with Holly maybe 3 to 5 hours a day 5 to 6 times a week to like, now I don't need to apply myself in that way. And very easily, maybe I could be like, oh, I don't need to exercise. Like I can stay home, I can be comfortable. But actually, no, I value health. And so the habit of exercise continues, but not to the same expenditure. It's just, but it looks different now, but it's still there. The habit's still there. I think exercise is also a great one because it makes you, I'm not sure whether you would agree with this, but it just creates a sense of clarity, especially if you're moving towards something and you've got a vision for a very big, maybe it's a business goal or whatever. I think fitness is a great foundation to create clarity and just be like, oh, I gave to myself, now I can like keep moving forward.
It is, and it is such a great metaphor for life because I'm a long distance runner, and there's so many metaphors when you settle for a run, and you can't think about the end. You have to go on the journey. You have to just one step at a time, know that you'll get there, trust yourself. And I apply that to my life when I have challenges or difficult things to do. And the other thing that I find really interesting is when I am running for hours, I get so creative. Like I solve problems and I have all these ideas, and it's really an amazing, almost therapeutic, useful time. It's not indulgent at all. It's I actually am working in my head while I'm running. So I really enjoy that. And I think for me it's running, but for other people it would be, I don't know, drawing or doing yoga or meditation. And I just think everyone needs something that they do. I think they call it zone time.
That outlet.
Just kind of calms the mind and allows the creative ideas to come to you instead.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny you say that. When a few years ago I was training for a half Ironman and I had that experience while swimming. And I didn't realize, because I'd only taken up swimming to complete the half Ironman. But I would be swimming and then I'd be like having all of these kind of like problems solved whilst I was kind of swimming, or all this creativity, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's
so good.
How do we do that without going for the 6-hour run? Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. So what's in the future for you? Where do you see yourself, and what's sort of kind of the next path you think you'll be heading down? Or?
Really kind of like the vision for the connection concept is what I said earlier, psychological services for all. And so my vision is that that I would create a vessel where not just me, but other therapists and other kind of clinicians or people from walks of life can offer insights to people so that people can access mental health services. And so what that looks like, I'm starting an online community. So that's one thing that I'm starting, and it'll be a place where people can get information and guidance on their mental health, and it's authentic. I think that's really important, especially I don't want to unpack it too much, but in an era of AI, I think connection is really important, and a place where you know that this is like a genuine human giving you some information and some clarity and direction. So that, and then my workshops, my one-on-one therapy. So the vision is just to kind of like keep speaking about mental health, keep giving people tools and equipping people to be able to live a more a life of vitality and be more empowered.
Wonderful. And I think the more it gets spoken about, the less taboo and stigma there is around it. I mean, I think it's still considered to be a weakness where it shouldn't be. It should be the same way that we exercise our bodies and we focus on our health. Why is it any different to your mental health? It's not a bad thing. It's
That's right,
just continually wanting to improve and be better for those people around us that rely on us and that we love. I mean,
absolutely, I'd like to that notion, I'd like to say that therapeutic services are proactive, or they should be proactive rather than reactive. Often we think, we'll go to therapy in the midst of a crisis, or if something goes wrong, or at the point that I can't cope myself anymore. But you wouldn't do that necessarily with the gym always, right? You wouldn't necessarily be like, I broke my leg, I should go and strengthen my legs now. It's maybe more of a preventative tool, so that when you get older, you're stronger and all of those kinds of things. And I'm really passionate about, especially for men and women, like that they access these services as like, it's prevention. It's not just a reaction. They have the tools, and so that hopefully you don't have that crisis moment.
Absolutely. Because sometimes it's too late, and you've already had those, if you had that prolonged period of being in a anxious or depressed state, it's much harder to reverse it and undo it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I'll certainly we'll put all the details for your practice in the show notes, and yes, we'll hopefully have another opportunity to have another chat. I'd love to talk to you again after your retreat and to see how that went.
Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I feel very inspired. And thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate you having me. And it was great to sit and chat about it.
Right. Thanks for your time, Liam.
Thank you very much.
Take care. I really enjoyed chatting with Liam. He's really easy to talk to, and you really feel comfortable and like you want to share. His approach to helping people grow through connection really resonated with me. But I think the key takeaway from this whole episode was the importance of values and your strong sense of identity being like the compass that guides you, and something that you can turn to when the going gets tough. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. There's more details about Liam, his business, and his practice in the show notes provided. Thanks for listening to For Your Life.